Roll and Writes is a genre that we have become big fans of because we love combo-y things. Well, Weird Giraffe Games has a game coming out called Reef Ruins that is a roll and write with an interesting twist. What is that twist? Stick around after the break. I'll show you how that is as I briefly explain how the game plays. Then I'm going to tell you what I think of it. We are going to go over briefly how to play Reef and Ruins. I will say these are prototype components and subject to change. If you visit the link down below, you can check out the campaign and see what they're going to be looking like in the production copy. So each person is going to be getting a sheet, a runes sheet, an enchantments, and a reef, and then the players are going to decide on which side they want to play with of the reefs. There's going to be 3 dice. You're going to have a round tracker board with the little tracker on round 1, and each person is going to need a writing utensil. You then are going to have a person rolling for the round, and they're going to roll all 3 dice. You are then each person simultaneously is going to choose how they want to use the dice. If they use them for the runes, they can use 1 or 2 dice to total up the value of the rune they wish to activate. So in this instance, let's say we use our 3, means we can now activate this rune here. Each rune wants to be filled in a certain way. Number 1 wants the same numbers next to each other. Number 2 wants different numbers orthogonally adjacent to them. Spot 3 is an increase or decrease by 1 number. And whenever you change ways you are going to circle one of these spots. 4 is odd numbers, and you'll be getting points for those. I will go over each sheet individually after I give you an idea of how the game works. 5 is like 4, except with even numbers, and 6 is building a pyramid from high numbers up to low. So if I had used my 3, I now have the option of using 1 or 2 of these dice in that ruin I activated. So I could choose to do the 6 and the 5 if I wanted. However, if I only want to use 1 die and the other die, this die I have 2 options with. I can use it to take 2 shells, or I can use it in my reef. Each reef plays differently, so I will go over them each individually, but that is one option. Another option is using 2 to 3 of the dice to total up a number of an enchantment, and then fill in the next available. So in this instance, I could do a 9, I could do an 8, or I could do an 11. So if I did the 11, I would come down here, I'd fill in my little star thing, and then that gives me 2 seashells. Shells do allow you to increase or decrease a number by 1 for each shell you cross off. Then, if you have a die remaining from here, you again can either get 2 shells or use it in the reef. Third option you have is you can just use all 3 dice in your reef, or to gain shells, mixing and matching. So I could use these 2 to trigger my reef, and this one to get 2 shells, or get 4 shells and get just in my reef. Those are the options. Once everyone has used all of their dice, then you're going to keep moving rounds until you get to round 18. There are spots on the round tracker, as when you get to this round, everyone will circle a pair of shells. When you get to this icon, the person is going to roll 1 die, and then you're going to use that in your reef or in your ruin. 9 and 18 is you fill in the next enchantment. So let me go over each sheet individually, give you an idea of how they score, and then also what some of these icons mean. So we're going to start off with the ship ruins. So the first one, as I said, needs to be the same. So this needs to equal that same number. Then for each finished rows, you're going to be scoring points. If you get all 3 completed, you'll be scoring 8 points, otherwise 4 or 1. In the second one, you are again going to want finishing rows and being different than what's around it. So if I had a 2 here, I would be able to put a 2 here because they are not orthogonally adjacent, and that's what these symbols are there to remind you of. If you finish 1 row, you get 3 points. If you finish another row, you get 8 points. Row number 3 here, again, you're going to be wanting to go down or up by 1. So if I went 6 and 5 and 4, 3, but then back up to 4, I'd circle this one, and then if I went back down to 3, I would circle that one. Whatever the farthest spot is how many points you'll get. So either 1, 2, or 3. You do not add them up. If you do 0 to 1 change, you would get 5 points. 2 changes, 2. So if this was my finished one, I would be getting 3 points. I did 2 changes, so that would be 5 points total. 4 is you want to put odd numbers in these rows. If you complete a row, you get 3 points and 3 points. And depending on how many correct columns you have, you'll get points there as well. If you look, this one would need to equal 4, 6, 8, and 10. Evens is the same thing, equaling 4, 6, 8, or 10. And then 3 and 3, and then the correct columns over here. The pyramid is, if you complete a row, is how many points you get, but it has to be completed. So if you have like a 6, a 5, a 4, and then these have to be equal or less, so we'll go a 5 and a 3 and then a 2. You would only be getting these 6 points because you do not have these rows completed. So that is the ship ruins. I'm going to stick it right next to the enchantments because these pertain to the ruins. So as you're filling in enchantments, you'll notice these times numbers. That's because for end of game scoring, you are going to be totaling up whatever your total is here, then coming across, multiplying it by this number, and then that is going to be your subtotal for your enchantments for the end of the game. So right now, if I had this, I have these 5 points times whatever multiplier I unlock. The other options you have here is you have the shells, which I've already said, you circle those. This little dot here pertains to the reef, which will be triggering reef bonuses, which I'll get over in more depth when we cover the reefs. Going across, you have these die numbers, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and 6, 6. When you unlock these, you use it as if you rolled that number, so you can put it in your ruins or in your reef, and then the multipliers. So that is your enchantments. Getting into reefs, I will go over the reef bonuses first, basically by filling in these circles depending on the reef layout, and then also on the enchantments, you'll be able to use one of these reef bonuses. These are going to be straight points. The numbers will allow you to fill in that number in the reef or in the ruins. So if I filled in this 2 here, just cross it off, that I used it, I would then be able to say come over and put it in my same. These will make you fill in the next enchantment of your choice. And then these X's, if you use these, it allows you to fill in any number that would allow you to get coins. So in this instance, that would allow me to put a 2 on there if I wanted. So these X's can only be used in your ruins. The other numbers can be used in your reef or in your ruins. So for this reef, Reef B, you are going to start off with this one circled for free. In order to move forward on this one, you are going to need to cross off spots that are orthogonally adjacent. So at the beginning, you can only cross off this 2, 6, 5, or 3. If I crossed off this 3, that now allows me still the 5, the 2, and the 6, but now opens this 5, this 2, and this 4. You are going to be getting bonuses if you cross off these numbers here. And then also for every column and every row, you'd fill in the circle, which would allow you to do a bonus down here. Your reef, you are going to be using a number in order to draw that shape into the reef. Those shapes can be mirrored and rotated. However, if you cover up any of these spots that are not the typical reef, so these 3, you need to cover them all up with that specific shape. So I would not be able to use this shape and just go like so. This shape would also need to have to cover up that square. So that is the shape for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alternatively, you can use any number to instead just put a single square and a single square. For this one, when you complete every column, you're going to get a bonus action. When you complete every row, and then once you've completed both rows, you will also get a bonus action. Again, the bonus actions are down here. Going back, part of setup is you can get a lucky number. You can either choose it or you can roll a die, and that'll be your lucky number. However, each player does need to have a different lucky number. So for end of game scoring, you are going to get your enchantment total, and that was based on these numbers times your multiplier, adding those all up for your subtotal. That's your enchantment. Lucky number bonus, you are going to get 2 coins for each lucky number instance in your ruins and in your reef. And then your reef bonuses, if you get any of those, total those up to get your score. So that is briefly how you play Reef and Ruins, and specifically Reefs B and C. So let's get into hearing what I think of this. So there you have it. That is briefly how you play Reef and Ruins. Again, that was a prototype copy, and there will be a link down below to the campaign so you can check out what other goodies are included. So I'm going to start off this with saying, when we look at roll and write games and ones that are going to interest us, we look for a couple of different things. We are going to look to see how many combos are in there, like if you do this thing, does that trigger this thing, can that trigger this thing? And we also look for the kind of decision space in it. Is it simply roll a die, fill in a square, roll a die, fill in a square, and there's really not much decision aspects you need to make? Reef and Ruins has that on the multiple sheets. Because you're rolling 3 dice and you have 3 sheets, and then once you have those dice, you have to make decisions based on where you even want to put those. So it's not simply roll it and then you just have this one idea. No, you can total up 2 or 3 of them to start working on your enchantments, which you're going to need to increase the value of your runes. You can use all 3 dice in your runes to either start really knocking one out, like especially if you get a 1 and 2 doubles, then you can immediately fill that in. Or if you get like the right set, you can really just start knocking out those runes really well. Or do you just use a couple over here because you want to work on your little puzzle over here in the reefs? And then the fact that there's those 2 different types of ones where, it's the little puzzle where you cross it off stuff to try and fill in rows, or you're putting in your little polyomino shapes to fill in that puzzle. So that's a whole nother little puzzle you have going on here. So that's what I mean, like that decision space of, you can use 2 of them here and then 1 over here, or you can make sure you have those shells, because what you're not going to want to do is come near the end where you have to really manipulate those dice to get that last big move in, and you've wasted all your shells. Add into all that comboing, that as you're going down the rounds, they start giving you bonuses. Like here's a couple shells in case you haven't been able to get them, or here, you can roll that 1 die, get that number, and do stuff. There's numerous times that when that 1 die rolled, I was able to use that number to trigger something in my reefs that allowed me to do enchantment, that allowed me to do an enchantment over here. So even without doing the main roll, just doing one of those bonus rolls, I was able to trigger 2, 3, 4 different things. That is what really scratches that itch for us when it comes to roll and write games. Being able to be like, oh, I did here, give me a second. All right, now I'm over here. No, still going, and just enjoying being able to feel like you're being so productive on a turn with even just 1 die. And that they give you those couple of enchantments, especially that one at the end. That way, that last one, you don't have to be like, well, I need to do this enchantment, so I guess I'm going to use my dice. Nope, they're going to give you that bonus enchantment right there. And then as you saw, maybe that enchantment, again, might trigger a die that you can use to trigger over here. So that fact that there are these 3 different sheets, their own little puzzles and way you want to manipulate them, but by using them, you can interact with the other sheets and just have this huge synergy between the 3 sheets is really what draws us into this game and makes us really enjoy playing it. And also the interesting dynamic that when you first look at it and go, 18 turns, wow, that is a lot of turns. Well, they start disappearing fast, and because at 18 turns, you're like, I'm going to be able to get so much done. And then as it goes and goes, and even though you're triggering this stuff, you just still see so much stuff you really want to do. And then with that, there's the different play styles. My play style is I am going to focus on 2 to 3 of the runes, get those built up, multiply them, and then work on my reefs quite a bit. Bri is the opposite. She likes dabbling in all of them, kind of sporadically getting her points, and then multiply them a little bit here, but then still trying to work on her reef. So that's the thing. You can get so focused on the ruins and the enchantments, sometimes you can forget about the reef. But to me, that reef is very important, because that reef is what gives you those bonus actions to be able to start using numbers that you might not be able to roll. That can give you more enchantments to start driving up your points. So it sometimes becomes a little bit of an afterthought because it's over here and you're really focused on getting these and multiplying to here to get the big points. Yes, this is where your big points come from, but your reef feeds into those points, so you got to make sure that you do take care of that reef. The one game that I won, I definitely made sure I took care of that reef. In fact, there was at least 2 of the 18 turns where I used all 3 dice in that reef because I wasn't quite happy with how they were going to work over here. So being able to have that ability to come over here, do this, and I was still able to put a couple numbers in because it lined up just right to get me my bonus actions. And then even if you aren't being able to get your bonus actions from there, as you're filling in your enchantments over, there's a whole row there of bonus actions that they'll let you do if you go across your enchantments. So I really, again, like that synergy between all the sheets where you can trigger this, trigger over here, to trigger over there. So if that combo-y, synergistic design space is the type of roll and write you're looking for, head down below. There is a link to the campaign page. So head on over to that. Check it out. Follow it if it's not already live. And if it is live, then go ahead and back it. And while you're down checking out that link, you could go ahead and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell for this video and this channel. And I would be appreciative of all of those things. All right, so until next time, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.